Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth Podcast. My name is Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Anish Gupta.
And we got a lot of topics to cover today. Let's jump right into the NFL. The Carolina Panthers fired Ron Rivera.
And look what happened. They just got crushed.
Oh, boy. And it was following a 29-21 defeat to the Redskins. Of course, they played against the Falcons. They lost 40-20. And owner David Tepper said, "I believe this is the best decision for the long-term success of our team. I have a great deal of respect for Ron and the contributions he has made to this franchise and to this community. I wish him the best. I will immediately begin the search for the next head coach for the Carolina Panthers." What are you guys' thoughts right now?
Ron Rivera did not deserve to get fired. He's a great coach. Though he's never had back-to-back winning seasons, he's been to a Super Bowl. He's won an NFC championship. He's been to the playoffs multiple times. And teams are going to want him. I mean, he's going to go
For sure.
Dallas. I mean, Cleveland could want him potentially.
New York.
Yep. I mean, he's got a lot of options. Who knows? Maybe even go to college. But, I mean, most likely he'll find
He's
he'll
an
find
NFL coach.
yeah.
He's not really a college
He'll
coach.
find a home in the NFL.
Yeah, it might not take long.
I think he made Cam Newton look better than he actually is. I don't think Cam Newton's an MVP.
Cam has been injured. Cam's been injured.
Yeah. That's true. But I'm saying that at the season he won MVP, I don't really think Cam Newton's an MVP caliber player, but I think Ron Rivera won him that MVP this year, or that year. And I think he's just a really good coach. I would say he was one of the top 10 coaches coming in this year to the NFL, and then they fired him, and I think it was a poor decision, and it was reflected this week as the players came out really flat against the Falcons.
I don't even think it was him developing Cam. I think it was him developing that defense because he developed Luke Kuechly, and I think that overall defense, it's always been top 10.
Shaq Thompson, too.
Yep, Shaq Thompson, and then Thomas Davis was always good. I mean, he had to come back from 3 ACL tears, and I think Ron Rivera was a big part in his recovery. And I think the Panthers have just always been good. I mean, Brian Burns was looking good as well with him. I mean, I think the Panthers were also known as a defensive team. They were just like a old school kind of ground and pound defensive kind of team, and through Ron Rivera. And I think that's sad that he's gone, but I think he'll find a home.
Definitely. They haven't had a lot of draft picks that haven't turned out their way. They've had a lot of players that have been really good for them, especially their first round talent. And they haven't had a lot of busts, which is something other coaches can't say. And so I just think with the development of the players in the beginning, especially Christian McCaffrey,
the way he's been able to use him,
DJ Moore, Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson, like all these players that are looking like they're on the come up this year, and then you fire your coach, and it might set it all back for the Panthers.
Exactly. I mean, I think they overreacted. I mean, they did go 5-1 with Kyle Allen initially, and they did beat some good teams like the Texans. I mean, to just blow it all up after a few bad games, I don't think it was the right decision. I mean, they barely lost to the Packers. Sure, they lost to the Redskins, but I mean,
that happens in the NFL.
Exactly.
Eagles lost to the Dolphins last week. It just happens in the NFL.
Exactly.
There's no off week in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah, it might not take long for Rivera to generate interest from elsewhere. He has a strong track record in Carolina.
No question.
14 years of experience as an assistant, including 3 seasons with the Chicago Bears as a defensive coordinator and the San Diego Chargers back then. And I feel like we've seen this so much from the Panthers. They start off really good and then they just stumble.
Yep.
I just don't know how that happens every year.
The Panthers are a very up and down team, but I think they have a decent future going in, but I mean that could have been a lot better with Ron Rivera there.
For sure. And moving on, who is the real Kirk Cousins? Do we get the primetime really bad Kirk Cousins, or do we get a really good Kirk Cousins? What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, we're going to see it because the Vikings, they're going to have to play Chicago and Green Bay to keep their playoff spot because the Rams are coming for it. And, I mean, at 9-4 right now, they've beaten some decent teams, but they've also lost to really good teams like Seattle, Green Bay. They even lost to Chicago as well. So we just don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to be.
What's crazy is, only Kirk Cousins can be an $84 million bust, but he's also a dark horse MVP candidate. It's just how are you going to look at it?
I mean, last year, he was third in passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think this year he leads the league in QBR, too.
Yeah.
Just above Russell Wilson. So he gets it done. He's not going to make the flashy plays that Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson make week in, week out, but he's going to win you games, and he's going to be that normal quarterback that the NFL was used to for so long. It's just something I feel like the NFL is moving away from a little bit, is that statue pocket passer.
But see, in the NFL and all that, we've seen him in a market like Minnesota. He just, in local games, casual 10 a.m. Pacific games, he's lighted up, right? He does well, but in prime time, that's where the lights are on. That's where everyone sees what you're capable of. And he hasn't had that, that Zen moment where he pushes him up into that elite stratosphere. He just hasn't had that moment. Not even in Washington and not here. I mean, his only playoff game, he got destroyed by Green Bay at home. So, I mean, I just don't know what Kirk Cousins is. Like,
I think if he can beat Green Bay and Chicago, like including the king of the division and Aaron Rodgers, like the entire Cousins story might change for a while.
exactly.
If not, we all know how that Cousins story might.
I really want to see him in the playoffs this year because I feel like he could make a difference in the NFC in the playoffs.
Thing is, he doesn't have that much experience in the postseason.
Yeah.
And also, the Vikings, their kryptonite is Aaron Rodgers. But maybe Kirk Cousins can change it around. You never know.
And moving on, I think it's time for Jerry to just end this nonsense. Fire Jason Garrett. I don't care if it's midseason. Just get rid of him. He's got to save this campaign.
If the Panthers are going to fire Ron Rivera, how are the Cowboys not going to fire Jason Garrett? Think about it. Going into the season, who had higher expectations, the Panthers or the Cowboys?
Cowboys.
Who hasn't lost their quarterback for the season and is now running with Kyle Allen? Panthers or the Cowboys?
Yeah,
the Cowboys. And who has really looked like a better team this year against good opponents, which is the Panthers. The Cowboys are awful against good teams this year.
They just haven't had their moment as well. But I think he shouldn't fire Jason Garrett right now. Because we just saw what happened when they fired Ron Rivera right now. Fire him at the end of the season.
No one wanted Ron Rivera fired. Everyone wants Jason Garrett fired, so it wouldn't have the same.
I don't think the Cowboys players do. I don't think they have that same animosity that people do. Especially Jerry Jones.
I feel like it should have been switched around. I feel like Ron Rivera should have been fired at the end of the season, while Garrett should have been fired now. Because after that Bears game, I was convinced that he does not have what it takes, especially when it's going to come to the playoffs. I do not trust this guy. I don't trust him.
But it's not good to fire a coach in the middle of the season because it just creates turmoil all over the locker room. It just creates a weird atmosphere. Fire him at the end of the year. I mean, Jason Garrett deserves to go.
So does losing to the Bears and the Jets and all these teams throughout the season. That creates turmoil too. You think the players want to play for Jason Garrett? They don't.
Yeah,
with all of this buzz,
I disagree with that.
Garrett hasn't beat anyone above 500.
But that doesn't matter. No, But that doesn't mean the players aren't motivated to play for him.
Here's the thing.
The players are not motivated to play for Jerry Jones. I think there's a difference there.
Garrett does not prepare his team well enough for every game they go into.
They're
often out-prepared, out-coached, and outmatched by opponents.
I'm not saying
frankly, they should not be. They have one of the better rosters in the National Football League.
I get all of that. I'm not saying Garrett deserves to stay. I'm just saying you shouldn't fire a coach during the season. Like, when has it worked?
But I mean, he's just such a disappointment. Look at the talent that the Cowboys have.
I get that.
How are you not beating up like a team, one team above 500?
I get that. I get that. If their season was like, if the Eagles didn't lose to the Dolphins,
their division's literally saving them.
Exactly, that's my point. The Cowboys still have a shot at the postseason right now. They still do. If there was no shot, give up. You might as well even tank if you had no shot. But the NFC East is so bad that the Cowboys are still in prime position to win that division, even host a playoff game, and you never know in the NFL. If the Cowboys host a playoff game at home, you never know.
But here's the thing. You could get rid of Garrett, promote Chris Richard. He's actually pretty good.
I'm not denying Chris Richard. I'm not denying anyone. Scott Linehan. I'm not denying any of that. But
once the season ends, then once Chris Richards' time is over, get Lincoln Riley.
No, I think, or even Ron Rivera. Who knows? But you can't. I don't think you should fire a coach right now, considering you're still in prime position. I think it even could depend on what the Eagles do tonight against the Giants. Mm-hmm. If the Eagles, if they lose, I mean, keep going because you're still in prime position and you can still. I mean, you're still a game ahead. You have the tiebreaker because you beat them. I think they're still prime position to get that home playoff game.
And again, we are recording this on a Monday, so tonight is Giants-Eagles.
I think Chris Richard and the rest of the Cowboys staff and the rest of the Cowboys staff, I think they're the ones that are taking the biggest hit by Jason Garrett not being fired right now. I think Chris Richard realizes this is his team. Like, he should be coaching this Cowboys team, and I think they'd be doing better if he was. And I think that with Jason Garrett not being fired yet, the Cowboys staff is the one that's being the most impacted by this because they realize that Jerry Jones is going to back up Jason Garrett no matter what, and they're not going to fire him.
Well, you just don't. I mean, to be honest, who really is the leader of that team? Is it Dak Prescott? I mean, he hasn't really shown it this season. Like, I mean, Jason Garrett hasn't really developed anyone, and neither has that entire Cowboys coaching staff. But
That's where I disagree. I think they do a good job of developing their players. Look at Michael Gallup. A lot of their O-line.
They're good at developing talent.
They're developing talent, but they're just not winning games and instilling
because
leadership.
They're not.
Exactly. Look at Van Der Esch. Look at Jalen Smith.
That's my point.
Look at Byron Jones.
But that's my point.
Whole defense.
They're not creating leaders. And by the way, that defense has been gashed Like they've been destroyed as of
another
late.
talent-wise.
They just haven't put it together.
They could have possibly the most talented roster in the league, but Jason Garrett can't win games with it. That's why he needs to be fired.
I mean, it's like Cleveland. Both of them talented rosters. They just can't seem to win these games.
And then also, wasn't it you who was saying that you wanted Freddie Kitchens fired in the middle of the season, but you also say that NFL coaches shouldn't be fired in the middle of the season?
But the thing is, going 2-6 is different than 6-7 and leading your division. There's a whole different ballgame there. Because
but I thought the Browns had a harder schedule. Isn't that what you were saying too?
Yeah, but
I'm just saying, like,
if you're 2-6, and you had all that hope and all that expectations, then it's fair to say you can consider that a lost season. But they started to pick it up. But I mean, they put faith in him, and it's looking good. Because maybe, who knows, if they had fired Freddie and they took someone else in, they could have done even worse than what they are right now at 6-7.
Or Myles Garrett might still be playing for them.
Exactly. You never know. Because I mean, firing a coach mid-season, it's just there's a lot of variables that you can't account for. So I think Jason Garrett should stay for the season. But yes, I mean, at the end, he should be gone. No question.
And moving on, it was gorgeous. It was soul-churning. It was probably the game of the year. 49ers 48, Saints 46. Heart palpitations at like 1 billion. There were 5 lead changes, 94 total points. It was the highest scoring game in 77 all-time matchups between the two teams. The 55 points and 581 yards in the first half were the most by two teams since 2014. This was literally an entire fantasy football season in like one game.
Yep, no defense. Both teams forgot how to play it.
And that's exactly why I think 49ers Seahawks is still the game of the year, in my opinion. I believe it had a little bit more suspense because the teams were getting stops, and I think it was just more entertaining in a football game. Because I think games with no defense, like Rams and Chiefs last year, it was a great game for offense, but watching it just didn't feel like the best football game of the year to me because no one could get a stop. And when you have teams getting stops and it looks like they're a little bit hopeless on offense, and at the end of the 49ers-Seahawks game, it looked like it was just going to end in a tie, but somehow Russell Wilson got them down the field and they kicked a field goal to win the game. That's what makes it the game of the year to me, is the fact that it, first of all, went to overtime after the missed field goal, and then even in the stands, we were talking about how we really didn't want it to end in a tie because a great game would go to waste ending in a tie, and then the Seahawks found a way to win it. So that's why I will take the 49ers Seahawks as the game of the year.
I agree with that. I mean, the Niners Saints, it had a lot of offense. It had 2, scoring drives to finish it off. I mean, that play by George Kittle, that was amazing. I think we can all agree here. He's the best tight end in football.
Oh yeah,
still disagree.
Yep.
Whoa!
I'd say most talent. I think he's the most talented tight end in football, but I don't think you can undermine what Travis Kelce's put in and year out.
Who's the better blocker?
But Kelce's played more. That's just.
But not only that, what separates them?
And that's what makes him the best.
Blocking.
Kittle is a way better blocker. Exactly.
He's the best blocking tight end.
He's more talented, but I still think that Kelce is having a better season right now and had a better season last year. And until he proves to be. He had almost the same amount of yards and more touchdowns as Kittle.
If we're talking about value to their team, Kittle's more valuable.
Yeah, and Kittle had a way worse
I'm not arguing that.
Kittle had way worse quarterbacks as well.
I'm basing it based off production, and recently Kittle has been way more consistent of the two.
Because he's had a consistent quarterback. He didn't have one last year. He had 4 last year.
No, I still believe that Kittle is the best tight end in football right now, but Kittle is the most...
Kelce.
Kelce is the best tight end in football, but Kittle is the most talented tight end in football. But I think you'll see a changing of the guard next year when Kittle has a full season to play.
And we won't know the true impact of Niners-Saints, for years maybe. If the Niners win the Super Bowl, Garoppolo raises the Lombardi Trophy, it's probably going to trace back to that game. It could eventually be seen as the start of a dynasty, and then we could look at the Saints and be like, for Breeze and the Saints, who knows how many years are left in them.
I think this was Garoppolo's best moment of the season, but then again, that play wasn't him. It was George Kittle. So we haven't seen Garoppolo make that play, right? Because on 4th and 2, I mean, it was pretty manageable, and not only that, they were almost about to blow it if, Deebo Samuel didn't tell Kendrick Bourne not to jump off sides and cause a false start. So George Kittle was really the one that saved that team. We just don't. Again, I'm still not convinced that Jimmy Garoppolo can win those big games in January. But I mean, the Niners, they have controlled their own destiny. They've won pretty big in some big games. But again, it's different in January. It really is.
I think this is the first time we've seen Garoppolo play well against a good team. The Ravens and the Seahawks, I don't think he had his best games of the season, especially the Seahawks. He did not look good. But against the Saints, he went off.
And I think the Packers game too, I just don't know what's going on with the Packers. Like, the Packers and the Patriots, they both have, their records show they're amazing, but it's far beyond that. Like, I don't think the Packers have looked good against these teams. Like, they barely beat the Redskins. I mean, they didn't do well offensively.
Mhm.
I just don't know what's going on with, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Is there some animosity between those two tandems? I just don't know what's going on. But, like, the Niners against the Saints, I think they looked pretty good. And who knows what the future holds in January.
Yeah, there was a gold field goal, another Breeze touchdown pass, a missed 2-point conversion that made it 46-45 Saints, and then came San Francisco's 7-play, 63-yard drive that ended with Gold's. I think it was a 30-yard kick. And all of this was in New Orleans. This is one of the most intimidating places in the league to play.
But a quick note, I still don't think Niners win the NFC West. I don't think so.
Yeah, but it was no problem because this Niners team has a lot of mental strength.
Yeah.
All of this with the 2 games, stellar defenses on the field.
They've got fortitude, and the way they've handled injuries, especially on the tackles and on their offensive line, I think it just shows the true heart of this team. And they were motivated after going 4-12. People had them as an 8-8, 7-9 team. I mean, they've just come alive here.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to be really thankful for Robbie Gould in that game. I don't really trust Chase McLaughlin to make that field goal in the Superdome.
We saw in the Seahawks game he wasn't capable of that high
and that was
pressure
at
situation.
That's the difference right there between a veteran kicker and a kicker who hasn't been in these.
So Robbie Gould won him that game.
Yeah. This game was splendid. It was crazy. It was beautiful. And the fun part is we might see it all over again in the NFC title game.
And
so,
speaking of the Niners Seahawks, let's go to the Seahawks Rams. So Sunday Night Football, Seattle blew the game to the Rams at LA.
A mere 2 weeks ago, like many of us were ready to leave the Rams for dead after that loss to the Ravens. But they're the defending NFC champions. They're experienced, well-coached, they're resilient. And the NFC has to be conscious of the fact that the Rams are very much alive.
8-5.
It was back-to-back one-sided victories over divisional opponents.
And not only that, they hold the tiebreaker over Minnesota. So if they win 2 out of their 3 games and they go 10-6, and Minnesota loses to the Bears and Packers, or the Bears and Chargers, or the Packers Chargers, Rams will get in, and the NFC West would potentially sweep just like in 2013. So the Rams, you never know. I mean, and they've shown they can win on the road. I mean, they won at the Superdome last year, obviously because of the PI call, but they still had to win in overtime. And I mean, these Rams are looking good.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, they always do play well against Seattle, so it's a bit unclear. But I think they are back, and they could potentially steal the 6th seed from
the last couple of weeks. Their offense has looked revitalized under Sean McVay. Looks like their playbook opened up a little bit. They got Robert Woods back, and he's been big in 2 straight weeks.
And Todd Gurley has been looking a lot better.
He looks like he's got some fresh legs again.
Yep.
And Cooper Kupp's been a little bit better. Jared Goff also playing some better football as of late.
I think we're seeing the good strategy of keeping Todd Gurley, keeping his legs fresh towards this end of the season, right? Because early on they were giving him like 4 to 6 carries a game. Now he's truly becoming, more like an every down back, and it's looking good for them.
Yeah. And we know they have the ingredients on both sides of the ball. Defensively, I'm assuming future Hall of Famer defensive lineman Aaron Donald, he's being a game wrecker right now, and he's getting plenty of support now from, Dante Fowler, Clay Matthews, Samson Ebukam, Michael Brockers, and an underrated linebacker, in my opinion, Corey Littleton.
Yep.
And their secondary for sure.
Well, they showed a stat yesterday is that Aaron Donald on a replay was being covered by 4 offensive linemen, and Dante Fowler had no one on him. He just went in for the sack. That's what Aaron Donald creates. He hasn't been getting as many sacks this year as in previous years, but his pressures,
his presence,
and the people he takes, off the charts.
Exactly. I mean, we see that throughout. With these you even see them with receiving tandems. Sometimes Adam Thielen will draw double teams. Stephon Diggs as well. It's all about teamwork here. It's that's what fuels the Rams' defensive line, and I think it was a big part in their win over Seattle.
Yeah, the Rams will put up a fight against anybody, and I think they can put up a fight in January too, but they'll have to fight to get there, and that could be a good thing.
Yep.
There will be no easing up on the gas pedal for this team. They're trying to prove that they belong in the playoff picture, and everyone knows what these Rams are capable of now, and now it's fair to wonder, did the Ravens wake up a sleeping giant?
Well, their final 3 games are Dallas, San Francisco, and Arizona, and I believe they could win 2 of those 3 games.
For sure.
Potentially 3, you never know.
They could catch the Niners sleeping, for sure.
They could.
Well, speaking about teams that have a chance in the playoffs, let's talk about teams that don't and go into a mock draft of the first 11 picks this year. I mean, the Bengals at number 1, I think they need a quarterback, and Joe Burrow's their guy. I don't think they go anywhere else. I believe that Justin Herbert is maybe a better long-term prospect than Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow's the glamour pick right now, and I think they go Joe Burrow at number 1.
I think the Dolphins could look to explore and maybe take Justin Herbert.
I think for the Bengals, the pick here is Joe Burrow. The Bengals finally have a chance to break
Yep.
out of quarterback purgatory. It was a truly awful season. Andy Dalton was benched at quarterback so the team could see what it had in Ryan Finley,
It didn't
only
have
to see
anything.
enough from Finley and put Dalton back in.
Exactly.
And Dalton, whose contract expires after this season, after the 2020 season, he's not the long-term
I
answer.
think
Neither is Finley, and this makes Joe Burrow an easy selection.
I think we can all agree here that the Giants will probably get Chase Young.
Chase Young,
Mhm.
I think he's easily the best player in the class. One of the best prospects we've seen
Oh, yeah.
since Myles Garrett, maybe better.
Coming out of Ohio State University. Yes.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the easiest pick ever for Dave Gettleman, assuming he doesn't mess it up if he's
Yep.
still running the Giants in April.
But a
I
quick
think
thing,
it's going to be this one.
Panthers at 10, they could also snag Herbert if the Dolphins don't pick him.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Chase Young, he's a rare prospect at
Yep.
defensive end.
Yep.
He's better than either Bosa brother, in my opinion. They're both injury question marks. And he's better than Clowney coming out of college, too. He's just a franchise changer at defensive end as long as the offense can show some promise, you know.
So where do you guys think Jeff Okudah will fall?
I think let's just go through the list. I think Redskins at number 3.
I got
There's-
I got them picking Jerry Jeudy here. You know,
Okay.
there's no clear-cut path for the Redskins with number 3. Team needs don't really match value in this case, and there isn't, you know, a foundation in place without a general manager and with a current opening at head coach. You know, if we're going off team needs, they would draft a left tackle.
I think
but
yeah.
that's not a premium. That's not a
Well,
premium
they
right
do
now
have
at
Trent
number 3.
Williams.
No, but he's
they're-
gone.
yeah,
I think he's gone. I think they're going to look to replace him. I think they're going to go with Andrew Thomas here at number 3.
At
personally.
number 3, though, that's
At
a
number
little
3,
high for an offensive
He's the
line.
He's the best offensive lineman in the class. I would say better than any offensive lineman that was in the class last year. I think he's way better than Jonah Williams.
I think he's going to slip to the Lions.
I think the
personally.
board meets the needs at wide receiver. Terry McLaurin has been a very good rookie.
But it's a very
But
deep
the
wide receiver
But
class.
the team needs to continue to add playmakers and depth
I think
to
they can
support
get a
Dwayne
good wide
Haskins.
receiver in the second round.
I do too.
You know, Judy is an electric route runner, next level burst. I think he's just too good to pass up. He struggled with a few drop passes because he lets the ball, you know, get inside his frame. But I think he offers like a playmaking wide
But
receiver.
Scary
That's
Terry
exactly
can
what
definitely
Dwayne
become a
Ma-
number 1. Like I don't trust Judy as becoming a number 1 right away, and I
And-
think Terry McLaurin.
And
can
you look,
easily
and they were
break out.
able to snag McLaurin in the draft last year
Yeah.
in a less deep wide receiver class than this one.
Imagine
and
this
this
one.
wide receiver class is so good this year.
Yep.
Top of the second round is where I think they go receiver. So I'd say
Yep.
I'm taking Andrew Thomas here at number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, how the football people evaluate wide receiver this early in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends. But I think Judy's just good enough to merit the selection. And moving on, number 4, the Miami Dolphins. And I think the pick here is Justin Herbert. You know,
Yep.
here's the thing though. Mock drafts, the thing with mock drafts is this is what I think the team will do. I don't think Herbert's the long-term answer for Miami, but I just think that they're going to pick him
They
because
could,
they're desperate.
but again, like I said, he could slip, and maybe because Miami, I believe, does have multiple first-round picks.
Yep.
They could wait and maybe take Tua and take maybe take someone better at that spot, and I think and Herbert could slip to Carolina. That's what I see happening.
Yeah, whether it's Herbert here, you know, gambling on Tagovailoa, or waiting to use one of their other 2 picks
Yep.
in this round, I think the Dolphins have to draft a
Well,
quarterback. in
I
round
think you
1.
look around the league and you see all these young quarterbacks coming into it, and who's been the best? Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson,
Lamar Jackson.
and Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Now, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson have come into leagues and teams with some of the best offensive lines in
And
the league.
good coaches.
And good coaches
Yes.
and good players around them. Which is why I don't think the Dolphins are going to take a quarterback
Miami
at
has
the
a
fourth
good
pick.
Miami has a good coach. I like Brian.
I like
Flores.
Brian Flores, but I mean, look at what happened to Josh Rosen when he went to the Cardinals. I think it's the same thing that would happen to Justin Herbert if they draft him. If they draft Justin Herbert without a sufficient left tackle, which they traded away, without really anywhere else on the offensive line, not good running
Yeah.
game, and not any good receivers, I think that's a recipe for disaster, and you might end up with another Josh
And that's
Rosen.
exactly why I said I don't think they should get Herbert, but I really feel like they're just going to get him. They're just in desperation.
I think they
need a
should-
quarterback.
The smart move here would be to wait for Tua, but again,
Exactly.
there are a lot of wild cards here. I mean, this is very far out, obviously.
Or even wait next year for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like, there's always next year.
Yeah,
But
and I don't think they're going to be great next year. But so if Judy ends up going to the Redskins at 3, I think the Dolphins look to take Andrew Thomas, let him develop for a year, and draft a quarterback next year, or even at the end of the first round, middle first round of this draft,
Exactly.
so that
yeah,
their
quarterback's
quarterback-
nothing without an
the
O-line.
quarterback has something in front of him and someone to throw to. But also, Judy could be a pick at number 4 for the Dolphins.
Yes.
And moving on, the Detroit Lions at number 5. You know, where did the Detroit Lions go from here? and who will be leading them into the future. What happens to Patricia, what happens to Bob Quinn.
What happened to Stafford?
Yeah, and for now, we'll assume they stay together,
Yeah.
but the next month could really unravel the marriage in Detroit. And no matter who's running the show, an infusion of talent is just badly needed. I feel like the Lions are a potential trade-back partner, especially if a team wants to trade up for Tua, given the number of needs on the roster. But if Patricia's back, expect this to be a New England style pick. I'm saying they're going to take Derek Brown from Auburn, a D lineman. He is a legit top 10 player in this class. He has excellent power. He's quick. He has a lot of awareness. The Tigers have moved him all around the line, and he's been a nonstop playmaker. He's been there for 4 seasons.
But a quick note, if Andrew Thomas slips here, I think they take him, no question.
Tristan Wirfs would be a good pick too, but also I think if Herbert ends up going number 4, I think you look back and they can trade back to the Chargers pick, who I think will want to jump up and take Tua to make sure he's still on the board.
I honestly think the Lions can trade back here.
Or if Herbert is not taken, you may look at a team like the Panthers or even the Chargers trade up to get Herbert now that he's slipped past the Dolphins. So I think the Lions most likely trade back. If not, I like the pick of Derek Brown, but I think they would go Isaiah Simmons, linebacker from Clemson. They need help at linebacker, and I think he's one of the best defensive players in college football. Maybe second or third best behind Chase Young.
And speaking of the Chargers, I just got a quick question for you guys. For Phillip Rivers, is he going to make the Hall of Fame?
We've talked about this for 2 weeks now.
Well,
I think we've argued about this
I think
enough.
he's a Hall of Famer. And the only reason being, quarterbacks usually make the Hall of Fame like most of them do. Not all of them, but
Very few make it. Only 250 players out of over 50,000.
And a lot of them are quarterbacks.
A lot of them are quarterbacks.
A lot of them are.
And especially,
I feel like if Manning and Big Ben are going to make the Hall of Fame, it'd be disrespect to Rivers to not have him there.
It's not disrespectful if he has no rings. He's never been to a Super Bowl.
He's
only been to one AFC Championship despite all the talent he's had. LaDainian Tomlinson, Vincent Jackson, Antonio Gates. The list goes on. Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen. You can't do... he's had good defenses too. And I don't understand why he hasn't gone far. He's been a consistent Pro Bowler, but he's never made an All-Pro team. And he's just never been that guy that stands out. And, you can point to, he has better stats than Eli, but Eli's the most clutch quarterback in playoff history, in my opinion.
But who's still playing right now? I think
Eli's about to play tonight.
I think this is a debate for another time, though, because we still got to finish this mock draft. Let's go on to number 6, the Arizona Cardinals. General manager Steve Keim. Is it pronounced Keim or Keim? It's Keim.
I believe so.
He's feeling the heat in a terrible second half by the Cardinals. But it doesn't sound like he or Cliff Kingsbury will be leaving after the year.
Yep.
And with the duo set to return, I think Keim must give Kingsbury the pieces he needs to fully execute his plan. Left tackle is the team's biggest need. But I don't think that appears to be a priority for the front office. If that changes, Andrew Thomas is a smart pick here.
Yeah.
But with Keim running things, this could be a wide receiver 1 to replace Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going with CeeDee Lamb.
I don't like that pick because I think Christian Kirk can break out and be a number 1 receiver.
That's what people thought this year too, and he hasn't done it. And
that's because he was injured, though.
CeeDee Lamb played with Kyler Murray. I think they're a perfect fit together. He fits that offense. You either see him go CeeDee Lamb here or the best tackle on the board, especially if Thomas falls or Wirfs is there.
They need line help, and they also need help on the defensive line and just all over on their defense because they've been getting gashed. And the Cardinals got a lot of holes to fill, but I don't think wide receiver should be the one they should be looking at in the first round. And I like Christian Kirk. I think he could really break out. This year he's been injured with that foot, and when he came back, he erupted for 140 yards, 3 touchdowns against Tampa Bay.
But I don't think he's a pure number 1 receiver for his entire career, and I think CeeDee Lamb can be that. So I think they'll go CeeDee Lamb here.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb doesn't have world-class speed. He does have an amazing catch radius. He has great toughness as a runner after the catch.
And he's already got chemistry built with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, he has all the tools to be the number 1 wide receiver in this offense and open things up for Kyler Murray and the rest of his crew.
But a quick note, again, Cardinals don't need to work on their offense. Their defense needs the most work. Because Patrick Peterson, he has not looked good, and neither has this defense as a whole.
I don't know. I think that Cliff Kingsbury is going to want to make sure he has his offense down pat before he looks to defense. And I just don't think I think Patrick Peterson is still serviceable in the NFL. Meanwhile, I don't think that they can run that offense with the receivers they have right now, especially how well they want to run it.
Speaking of defense, moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where does Jacksonville go with Gardner Minshew at quarterback now? I think step 1 is building up a defense that can hold its own, while also keeping an eye on the offensive line and receiver talent to bolster the offense.
But the question is, what do you do with Foles? Because, who's your quarterback?
They're rolling with Minshew.
I think they're
He's
going to go
the
with Minshew
future.
for next year.
But,
I don't think he's the
but what do
future,
you do
but
with him? He's sitting there taking up $21 million
that's
in
true.
cap space. What do you do with him?
If you can find a trade partner, find one. If not, maybe you just have to bite the bullet.
I think if
Take
this
the
is
hit.
a lost season, maybe final 2 games, just throw Foles out there. Maybe if he looks good, final 2 weeks, you can get him on a trade.
I think the loss of Telvin Smith, who's on that reserve retired list, that's left the Jaguars defense missing a massive key at linebacker. And filling that role with Isaiah Simmons from Clemson it's too perfect.
Okay.
Simmons, who began his Clemson career at safety, he's a nasty coverage linebacker. He has excellent range. He has an ability to rush the quarterback too. He can stop the run, or he can just drop back and play man coverage. Drafting a left tackle could make sense if the team's ready to move on from Cam Robinson, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And Andrew Thomas is good value, but I think Simmons is the more sure thing, and he fits the mentality of this
I
front
think you can
office.
look at Simmons, but I have him going to the Lions. So you can have him go with the top prospect at left tackle available. You can look for a replacement for Yannick Ngakoue, who might leave in free agency, and AJ Epinesa. Or you can go try and find a Jalen Ramsey replacement, but I don't think that's where they're going to go because they already have AJ Boye. So I think they're going to go Grant Delpit to take over for safety, which is a place that their defense has sorely lacked throughout the years.
I like that pick, and I also like the Simmons pick, but I mean they've been drafting too much defense in the first round. They're in the last 4 years, I believe they only have 1 pick in the first round that was for an offensive player, and that was Leonard Fournette.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they need to work on that offense. I mean, they've been porous.
But with the place they are right now, I don't think a tackle at number 7 is really going to
not
be
even
what
a
they want.
tackle, a skill position.
Especially if Thomas and Wirfs and Judy and Lamb are gone, you might look for them to trade down and take offense in the mid 15 to 20
But if
range.
Judy and Lamb slip, you could potentially take.
I think if Judy or Lamb are still available there, I think you got to go with one of them, especially if it's Judy.
Exactly, because I mean Jacksonville, their defense will still be good. They still have players on that defensive front and secondary. And yeah, safety they've been weak, but I mean Tashawn Gibson was pretty good for them. But yeah, now they do need a replacement. Grant Delpit could be the one.
I think Falcons is one of the more obvious picks of the draft, especially when he's still here at 8. I would
Okuda.
say Jeffrey Okuda,
Yep.
the obvious pick right here.
Draft's
Obviously,
best
is it-
cornerback, and the thing is, he's going to fall right into their laps at number 8.
One of the best man-to-man corners. I mean, I've pretty much ever seen. Like he is just a great cornerback, and I think the Falcons.
You can
could
say
use
he's
him.
the best of the Ohio State corners recently.
Oh yeah.
And as a Jets fan, it sucks to see him go the pick before because Jets need a cornerback, and I would love to see him go corner here. Number 9, you can maybe go Christian Fulton.
I'm going with Andrew Thomas because if you look,
I think we've already had
I
Andrew
think
Thomas
we've already.
go.
Yeah, I think
We've
he's gonna
already
be
had
gone
Andrew
by
Thomas.
now.
I think he's
but
gone
I
by
didn't
now.
have him go
You
there.
haven't go? Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going with Andrew Thomas here because if you look at the game tape from this season and you look at Sam Darnold, I think Joe Douglas has to make it his life's mission just to grab an offensive
Well,
line.
Yeah.
they
But
spent
it's also-
a lot on their O-line
They
in
did.
free agency.
And
So
I
They
think
did, but they still need a better O-line.
No,
when he's
they've just
protected,
battled
Darnold
injuries.
is a beast. He's a beast when protected.
He
He's
doesn't-
actually playing good when he's
but he
protected.
doesn't win games. So
Because of
he's
his
not protected.
O-line.
Yeah. Okay.
no, but he doesn't win games even when he plays well.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he
I don't
does.
think so.
Okay.
I think he does.
I think that you can go offensive tackle in maybe the second round. You also have 2 third-round picks, and
Yeah.
so you might want to go. I mean, they grabbed Chuma Edoga in the 3rd round last year, and he's looked pretty good this year. So I think, judging based off who I've had drafted so far and Andrew Thomas not being available, I'm going to have the Jets draft AJ Epinesa from Iowa to have a dominant edge threat, which they have not been able to get. They were not able to pressure Andy Dalton of all people, who has an awful O-line.
Yeah.
And so I think him and Quinnen Williams draw a lot of attention away from each other, and they're going to be able to rush the passer.
I mean, Leonard Williams didn't work out for them, and Quinnen Williams, I don't know, he's not looking good.
No,
for
he
them.
actually has been playing much better recently.
Recently, yes, but
he's
for the
been
first 8
eating
games,
blocks and freeing up space for his teammates. He's also a great run defender. One of the reasons they have the best run defense in the league so far this year.
I agree. He's a good run stopper, but in the first 8 weeks, you can't just disregard them. I mean, he hasn't looked good, but yeah, I don't know if the Jets go D-line here again. Maybe again another skill position because Robbie Anderson is the most inconsistent.
I honestly
receiver I've ever
think
seen.
they have to go O-line. If you're looking at that tape, you need to get an O-line for
But I just
Darnold
don't
because he has that potential, but he has to be protected.
In mine, I think Wirfs and Thomas are off the table, and I don't think you reach for Leatherwood. So maybe the Jets trading down.
No
which
one's
is-
taking Thomas that early.
He's
Okay, you
a
said
generational left tackle,
You
no.
said Redskins can.
Yeah.
No, he's not a I guess he's elite, but is he really generational?
He
generational
could be
left
the next
tackle
Joe
talent.
Thomas. I can see
I
that.
think he's
happening.
great, but I think the Jets, just like I wanted them to do last year, I think Quinnen Williams is a good pick, but I wish they had traded down, especially without a second-round pick and not a lot of draft capital. I hope they trade down from the 9th pick this year, if they have it, because I just don't think the talent there warrants, unless they really love Epinesa, trade down to about the middle of the first round and get some more picks or players, and then you take Leatherwood or another one of those offensive linemen there in the middle of the first round, or maybe a wide receiver. So.
And moving on to the Carolina Panthers, I think offensive tackle and wide receiver have been very popular in these mock drafts for the Panthers. But this time around, I'm going to go D-line. The board falls to Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina.
That's what I have them taking too.
That is an excellent pickup of value, need, and scheme fit for Carolina. Kinlaw's been a wrecking ball in his senior season. He's shown impressive power. He has first step ability off the snap. And with the Panthers' interior, it's getting older. I think Kinlaw's definitely in need. He's a very good scheme fit. They run a 4-3. And I think much of the team's draft plans with what happens at quarterback, Cam Newton, Kyle Allen, they have Greer, right?
Yep.
But at this point, around 1, I don't think it's likely the team would draft a quarterback, even with Rivera fired and David
But
Tepper.
if Herbert slips, I think they take him. And also, him opposite Brian Burns, that's dangerous. I like that.
And David Tepper, he might bring in a new football operations staff. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. It's possible, of course, but
if
drafting
Herbert
a quarterback
slips, I think they take him.
But drafting a quarterback this late in the round with the top 3 off the board, it's not probable.
Yeah, but again,
if Herbert slips, I do think they might go quarterback.
Yeah.
But Kinlaw's the second best D lineman in this class, in my opinion. Or no, third best.
Third best.
It goes Young, Brown, and then Kinlaw.
Yeah.
And moving on, I think this is it's an easy pick for me, but it's also not easy at the same time. The Los Angeles Chargers. It's time to be thinking seriously about life after Rivers for the Chargers. At number 10 overall, it's rare to find a true franchise quarterback on the board, but I think LA gets lucky thanks to Tagovailoa's hip injury. And, while Tagovailoa is selected in late April, that's totally speculation. As a junior, he could even opt to return to Alabama. The smart money is still on him to declare and be selected in the first round as long as the hip shows signs of progress in February at the scouting combine. And again, in a likely, I think early April, they do an examination with NFL teams. I think if that hip injury shows signs of progress, I think Chargers should nab him.
Yeah. I think you get one more year. I think you signed Phillip Rivers I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. You sign him to a 1-year deal, or if people really think Tom Brady wants to come, you sign a quarterback, maybe Bridgewater, to a 1-year deal, let Tua sit behind him. Or actually, they still have Tyrod Taylor, too. You can let Tyrod Taylor start a year, get a better draft pick next year, and then now you have a weapon for Tua, and you let Tua not play his rookie season and fully recover from the injury and come back and light up the league in year 2.
Yeah, what I was thinking, Chargers can sign Rivers a 1-year bridge deal while Tagovailoa heals, or they can, they can elevate Tyrod Taylor for a season, but few teams are in as good a position to gamble on his rehab and the potential return of his talent. At number 10 overall, a healthy Tagovailoa could be the steal of this draft, genuinely.
But also, they could also take Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle. They could use him. Or even C.J. Henderson, because Casey Hayward does not look that good.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure. And now let's move on to our picks for Week 15, starting off with the Jets and the Ravens on Thursday Night Football.
I think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think the Jets make it a little bit closer than people expect. I think the Ravens are going to look past the Jets a little bit. I don't think the Jets are going to win, but I think you make it maybe a 10-point game, a 7-point game.
Jets on the road at Baltimore, I don't see it, but I do need the Jets to do well against the Steelers and the Bills, Jack, so they can help my team out. Against the Ravens, just take the L here. Just prepare for the Steelers and the Bills.
I think they're going to lose, but I think you make it a little bit more competitive than you think. I don't think it's going to be the last time the Jets were on primetime when they got absolutely destroyed by the Patriots. I think they make it a little bit more competitive against the Ravens. Not a win, but they let Ryan Fitzpatrick rush for 65 yards, couldn't bring him down in the pocket. Now imagine what Lamar Jackson's going to do.
Exactly.
But I think the Jets
I don't
make
have
it a
the
little
Jets
bit more
getting
competitive.
destroyed, but I feel like it could be easily a double-digit ball game.
I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens here.
Yeah.
But if the Jets do pull off this upset, that would be insane. That would be definitely the upset
Please
of the
save the upset for Pittsburgh and Buffalo.
All right. I guess we'll move through this. I got the Patriots against the Bengals. I think the Patriots come over the
Very
Bengals.
evenly
I got
matched
the
game.
Bengals win. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to take the Buccaneers over the Lions.
Yep, me too. Jameis
Same
Winston
here.
came back against
He had
Indianapolis.
to throw 3 picks.
But he also
Actually-
threw for 470 yards and 4 touchdowns.
True.
He is the most hard to understand quarterback because I just don't understand what's going on with him. He'll throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and then also have 7 turnovers.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I'm going to say Bucks in a blowout.
Okay.
Bucks in a
Okay.
blowout.
I can see that.
Like when you said Cowboys in the
I think
blowout
this
last
is the
week?
end of the line for Patricia. This is I know. I did predict the Cowboys in a blowout. That didn't end too well, but I believe in Jameis. Come on, Jameis. So I'm going to say Bucks in a blowout. I don't know about a certain score prediction.
Yeah. I think the Bucks they're just a consistently average team. I mean, they'll have some upsets, they'll have some good wins, but I just don't see them going anywhere.
You know
for
what?
the next few
I
years.
will give a score prediction. I'll say 33 to 16. 33 to 16. So it's fairly decent blowout, but like I think they can get the job done.
I got the Bears against the Packers this week. Packers haven't impressed me recently. I think Trubisky's playing a little bit better, and the Bears overall look better.
No,
At Green Bay,
I got the Packers.
I got the Packers.
and that would be a sweep for the Packers too,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And
Which
they
is
would be
why-
extra-
another reason why I don't think
They'll
it's
be
gonna happen.
extra motivated at home to beat Chicago. I mean, Chicago's look good though as of late, so I could see Chicago covering the spread. It could be a very close game, but I'm gonna take Green Bay to pull it out.
Okay.
And we got a little toilet bowl here, the Dolphins and the Giants. I'm going to go ahead and take the Dolphins here. I just think the Giants hit rock bottom.
Does
I'm
anyone
gonna-
know
I'm
if
gonna
Daniel
take Miami.
Jones is going to be ready for that game?
I think he
they're
will.
yeah, I'm gonna still roll. I'm
I'm
gonna
going to take the
Miami.
Dolphins in this one.
I'm gonna roll
They look to be invested in Brian Flores, and they look to be having a lot more fun on
And
the
Brian
field.
Flores is a good coach
Yeah.
because if you look back, this team was regarded as the worst team ever. Getting 3
Yeah,
wins, that's
Exactly.
pretty good.
And competing in a lot of
They
games.
compete
Yeah.
hard. They fight hard under Flores, and I mean, I can see them beating New York here.
hmm And moving on, the Eagles and the Washington Redskins, a nice little divisional game. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Redskins in an upset.
Yep,
here.
me too. I'm gonna pick the Redskins in an upset.
I feel like
as well.
Darius Geis is due for a big game here.
Yeah.
And Redskins are at home. I feel that upset brewing, so I'm gonna go with the
He
Redskins.
is injured right now though, so hopefully he can recover. But
I think-
yes, I'm going to take Washington.
We've got to see what the Eagles do tonight against
Yeah.
the Giants. Obviously, recording on a Monday, but I'm going to take the Eagles in this one.
Okay.
And for the NFC East, this has huge implications if the Redskins do
Redskins
indeed
are
win
all,
this game.
Yes, the Redskins are already mathematically eliminated, I believe, from the playoffs. So,
But I think if the Reds
they can still make a dent
they
against
lost,
the
they
Eagles
lost.
season, since they lost.
Yeah.
And then we skipped over some. The Texans and the Titans. This game should be interesting.
Well, I'm still in charge. So they're eliminated from winning the division?
I believe
Yes.
so.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Titans in this one. They've just looked really good, and I think Houston.
I'm gonna take Houston.
Okay.
I think they're gonna bounce back. That's a crushing loss to Denver, but I think they just get over it, move on, and I think they go ahead. And
This is the
beat
hardest
Ryan
game to
Tannehill.
pick all week.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, for sure.
As a Browns fan, so the Titans and the Texans. I need one of those teams to sweep the other. So I need the Titans to win both or the Texans to win both. But that being said, I think the Titans are going to win both because Ryan Tannehill has been 6-1 as the starter and beaten teams like the Chiefs, destroyed Jacksonville, destroyed Oakland. I mean, roll with it. I think the Titans are going to win the division.
I could see it happening, but I think the Texans take this game here. I think the Texans are actually going to end up getting the division, but I think Titans do get wild card though, right?
It's close. I believe so. Yes. If they split, Titans will get wild card because they do play New Orleans,
Interesting.
and the Browns are still there. So.
And moving on,
no,
the
no.
Broncos
Yeah,
and the
that's fair.
Chiefs. I could definitely smell an upset here. The Broncos could definitely
Oh,
catch
yeah,
the
I
Chiefs
can smell-
sleeping.
But
Just
I'm
like we
gonna
were talking
pick
about-
Kansas City.
I'm gonna pick Kansas City.
We've been talking about the Titans and the Ravens as two of the hottest teams in the league, but the Chiefs don't.
They
Yeah,
beat the
they've,
Pats.
they've been under the radar. I
They've
was
been-
about to say that.
They
like,
beat the Pats
yeah.
in New England.
But no one
That's
was-
so hard to
and
do.
it was
And
crazy
Mahomes
because
is
yesterday
still-
no one was really talking about it. Like 9-4, Mahomes has been looking good. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
He's
obviously
not at
as
MVP level,
exactly,
but he's still like
Exact-
good enough
yeah.
to win these games.
Exactly. I mean, the Chiefs have looked good. Who knows? They could play spoiler in January and maybe even go to the Super Bowl. But Denver has looked good. Just a quick thing. And Drew Lock, I think he's the real deal.
Alright.
Denver has a bright future ahead.
Seahawks, Panthers. I'm definitely taking the Seahawks here.
I'll take the Seahawks over
I
the
don't think they
Panthers,
waver.
I'm gonna take Seattle, but I think Carolina makes it close.
Jacksonville and Oakland. I think this is the final game in Oakland because they're on the
Then
road.
there's no way they lose it.
Yeah,
I'll
There's
take the
no way
Raiders
they're
in this
losing.
one.
I'm
Yeah.
taking the Raiders. They're
I'm
gonna
gonna
be
go and take
so
Raiders.
motivated. I mean, it's gonna be
I
sold
think
out crowd.
so. Week 17 they're on the road. I think in Denver.
believe
So I'm gonna take the Raiders here, assuming this is the last game in
Cool.
Oakland.
I've got Cleveland over Arizona. I think we all do.
Oh no, I got Arizona
You have
in an
Arizona?
upset. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
At home, I got Arizona in an upset. I think Kyler Murray.
Well, I don't want to jinx anything, so you guys can pick your things. But obviously, you know who I
Yeah.
want to win.
The Vikings and the Chargers on the road. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Vikings.
I'm gonna take Minnesota as well, but I think they could next week. It depends on how they play this game, but like next week against or next to next week against the Bears, who knows? But yeah, I think for now I got them against the Chargers.
Last week I talked about how I always pick the Chargers and they lose in heartbreaking fashion, so I pick against
Wait
them.
a second. Wait a
and-
second. No. Actually, I'm gonna take the Chargers. They're at home, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm taking the Chargers. Change my mind.
Well, I
Yeah,
picked
Chargers
against the
enough.
Chargers because every time I pick them, they lose. But I want the Chargers to win this week, and I think they will, so I'll pick the Vikings.
Some reverse psychology going on here.
No, I'll pick the Chargers. To be completely honest, I'll pick the Chargers to beat the Vikings.
The Chargers just find new ways to lose. I'm telling you, something's gonna happen. Like Philip
They
Rivers is gonna
beat
fumble.
they beat the
Philip
Packers.
Rivers is gonna somehow fumble when kneeling. Like that's their kind of luck. And I just got Minnesota.
The Chargers beat the Packers earlier in the year at home. Who says they can't do it to another NFC North opponent? I'm gonna go and take the Chargers here.
I got Minnesota.
And I think the Rams and the Cowboys, that also should be a very interesting game. You know, the Rams are trying to get back in the playoff picture. Dallas,
trying to save
I don't know what's going
job.
on in Dallas.
Haven't beaten over 500
That's why
teams, so
I'm going to take the Rams.
Yep,
I'm going to take the Rams, yeah.
It just continues here.
I think the Falcons have looked better, but I'm going to take the 49ers still.
This is definitely a trap game for the Niners. This is definitely a trap game. Niners, play tough, play rough, but I think the Niners pull it out, and I think they're going to get a dub, go on to 12-2.
Against the Falcons.
At home.
Yes. The Falcons, again, they're like the Bucs. It's just like they'll do bad one week and just resurge and just drop 40 on you. I mean, they did look good against New Orleans, so they have looked good in recent weeks.
And a thing to note, Richard Sherman will not be active for that Niners.
And
I don't
Rich
think
Berg's out for the season.
Rich Briggs out for the year.
I don't think the Falcons win the game, but I think they make it very
That's
close.
what I'm thinking, yeah. Not very close.
But
I can agree.
And not only that, I wouldn't even be surprised if they pull off the upset, but if they do, that has big implication for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Seattle, I think they hold strong at home in Week 17, so they could have a one-game lead, and they could have the first seed if Niners lose.
And a primetime game, the Bills and the Steelers. I'm actually going to take the Steelers in an upset. I think Duck Hodges gets it done.
Well, this is kind of a sore kind of moment because I need Buffalo to lose out, but I also hate seeing Pittsburgh be happy because I just hate them.
That's why you hit him on the head with a helmet, huh?
Yeah, well, I absolutely hate Pittsburgh. I really don't know who's going to win. I mean, to be honest, Buffalo's a better team, and I really want to see Pittsburgh get smacked.
I'm just going to say it to you now. The Browns aren't going to the playoffs, okay?
There's still a chance.
You can make your predictions not based on that. I
do recall 2 years ago the Bills had like a 1% chance of getting in, and everything went their way. So who's to say it couldn't happen in Cleveland?
I think Buffalo's better than a lot of the teams that they had to overcome in that one year.
But they
I was
also
almost
lost to
spot
Cleveland.
on in my Buffalo prediction last week that they would lose and that Josh Allen would commit a turnover for the first time in a while. So I'm going to take Buffalo this week. I think if Juju Smith-Schuster plays, the Steelers have a legitimate chance, but I still...
To be honest, he's been a non-factor this season.
But he's also dealing with a nagging injury.
He's
playing with Mason Rudolph and Delvin Hodges.
Even when healthy, he hasn't been well. And James Washington has thrived.
James Washington
and
Deontay
Deontay
Johnson.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he doesn't draw double teams. I'm sorry,
he does, actually.
Not as much as we thought he would, because he just hasn't looked good. So
Because he's been drawing double teams. I've got the Bills in this one. I think they win by about 7 or 10. If Juju Smith-Schuster plays, you make it a little bit more competitive, but I got the Bills.
Juju is just
and
not
then
good this
this
season.
really a not great Monday game again. After this week
Colts
is
and
Eagles
Saints.
Giants.
Well, this could potentially be a good one. I mean, it's a Super Bowl 44 rematch, and I mean, who knows? I'm gonna pick the Saints.
I got the Saints.
I'm going to take
Colts will make it.
I got the Saints by 17.
Wow. No,
I'm not putting up a score prediction.
I
It's
think-
Monday Night Football. Literally anything can happen.
I think that's very disrespectful to Indianapolis. They're a good team. Obviously, they lost Andrew Luck. That's disrespect. I think they make it close.
They picked off Jameis Winston 3 times and still managed to lose. And I don't think they're going to overcome Drew
I
Brees
can't.
and the Saints.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're gonna win, but and that's only because I don't trust Jacoby Brissett. I feel like the defense will do enough, but because the Saints, besides yesterday's game, they didn't look well. They didn't do well offensively. So I think Indianapolis could play split. They won't win it, but I think they cover the spread.
Oh, and this is a great segue into college football. The Heisman finalists have just been released. Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, Chase Young.
It's exactly what I expected.
Yep.
I think everyone knows Joe Burrow's going to win it, but I think they invited the right people.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to see a defensive player get invited, and I think that the 3 best quarterbacks this year are the ones that they invited, and so I think they got it perfectly.
All in the CFP as well.
Yeah, the CFP, can't complain about that for the first time in a while.
But 2 Ohio State candidates, how about that?
Well,
How
you
about the
know that's
Buckeyes?
actually awful for Ohio State.
Why?
Because the voters are going to split. The voters are going to have to be split between Chase Young and
we knew Burrow was
Justin
going to win it
Fields.
anyway. But
I think
having 2 candidates there, it's just
Yeah.
it's awesome. And I feel like Fields will win it next year because Burrow's going to declare.
So I think we can all agree that the committee got it right.
Committee got it wrong. No question.
Oh, I
Okay, Ohio State is not number one.
Ohio
LSU
State's
has
not
been
number one.
absolutely
Ohio
dominant.
State
LSU
deserves to be
crushed
number one.
Georgia.
They beat 3 top 10 teams in a row, and they showed they could beat teams
And they almost
down. Yeah, when they were down 14, we've never seen Ohio State down. They were only trailing for 9 minutes out of 720 this season. But when they were down 14 to Wisconsin, we needed to see how they would do in the second half. They did a shutout, 27-0, and they held Jonathan Taylor to nothing in the second half.
But
Ohio State looks good. They deserve to be number one. They should be playing against Oklahoma.
LSU has the best player in the nation,
Okay.
first of all. No question over Georgia this week.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely dominated Georgia.
Great game for them.
Yeah,
But who
exactly.
has a better defense? It's still Ohio State.
That's not how they do it. They do it based off who
I
had a
get
better
it.
season.
I get that, but
LSU had
Ohio
a
State
better
has
season.
played 4 top 10 teams, LSU 5, but Ohio State has beaten those top 10 teams by a larger margin than LSU.
How many
has.
top 4 teams have you beaten?
That's just
And how many top 4 teams have you beaten by a lot in the
They only did it
SEC
once. They
championship
only
game?
did it once.
Yeah,
I
they
think
beat Alabama.
Yeah, okay.
was in the top
but it
4,
was
right?
close, and they should have lost
It
that
was
game.
somewhat close.
They should have lost
They
that game.
didn't, did they?
They didn't.
And they've beaten Georgia this week, not in close fashion at all.
Yeah.
I honestly think LSU's argument just boils down to their superior strength of schedule.
Yeah. Exactly, but I just don't agree with it because
They won 5
because
games
you're an
against
because you're an
teams that
Ohio
were
State
but
fan.
here's my main point. If LSU was number 1 last week, I think it's fair to say, but they're number 1. But last week it was Ohio State's number 1 to lose, and I don't understand
And
how.
they didn't handily beat Wisconsin,
They
and LSU
did in the
handily
second half.
beat the
They did in the second half.
Not
They
the first half.
But in the second half, they shut them out, and that's when it matters. What matters? The last 2 minutes of the game or the entire game?
And
it's
even
the last 2
And
minutes.
even though Tagovailoa wasn't operating at full strength because he was recovering from ankle surgery, LSU's road win over Alabama was arguably the most impressive win in the entire season.
Yep.
Like I honestly feel like they
But
deserve that number 1 spot.
I don't think that propels because their defense is still. It's like 44th. Ohio State's is top 2. I don't understand.
But they've won games, haven't they? Because
So has
that's
Ohio State. Ohio State won 3 top 10 teams in a row. Has
How
LSU
good?
done that?
How good was that Georgia defense? It was vaunted. Joe Burrow
I'm not-
shredded them.
I know their offense is great. LSU's defense isn't.
I'm just saying.
And plus,
Ohio
he beat
State-
Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, 2 more good defenses. It's like he's beating good. It's
Well,
coming
Fields
down
beat
to strength of
FAU, who
schedule.
won
And
their.
ran Rutgers. Woo. No, okay. I think LSU has the best player in the nation and the Heisman.
Okay,
They have the
that's
best
fair.
strength of schedule in the nation. They've beaten 2 top 4 teams, and the recent one the most handily. They haven't been challenged, I think, all season really.
Look, I don't think LSU's
They're the number 1 team
I
in
don't
the
think
nation.
LSU's defense can even handle Jalen Hurts.
Here's my thing.
I think Jalen Hurts as a mobile quarterback. I think who knows? Oklahoma could play
No,
upset here.
But here's the thing that sucks for Ohio State fans. It came down to LSU's win being more convincing.
Yes,
than
exactly.
Ohio
I get that.
That's
I
what
get-
sucks for you
I
guys,
get
but
that.
that's
I
just
get
kinda
that.
how it
But
came down to it.
and what's worse is Clemson's our kryptonite. I mean, last time we played them, we got shut out 31-0.
Okay, let's do predictions real quick. Who do you guys think?
Well,
I'm
there's
not
still
making
time.
predictions
I'm
yet.
not
I'm
making
not-
predictions
next
right
week.
now. Next week,
We'll
I
do it
think.
next week. I think
But
I'll
here's
make an early prediction. I'll say LSU beats Oklahoma, Clemson beats Ohio State.
Clemson,
just for right now.
Clemson could very well be the best team in the nation, and we would not know it
because they haven't beaten a good team.
Yeah.
Exactly,
But they also
that's the
haven't
magic.
looked good when they played. Like.
And they won their
best team.
conference by 45 or something like that.
But that
I'm just
was
saying,
Virginia.
yes, I know it is, but they have talent.
Yeah.
They have one of the best coaches. They could be the best team in the nation,
And we
and
just
we
don't
won't know it until they play Ohio State. So Ohio State, watch out. Clemson could be very good.
I know.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we had today. Next week, we'll have a lot of NBA in it.
For sure.
Just a lot of NFL and CFB stuff going on this week, so we couldn't touch on the NBA.
Yep.
But for Cold Hard Truth, I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Anish Gupta. And quick thing, Luka Doncic, hey, MVP favorite.
We'll get into that the next episode.
All right,
See you guys later.
See you next week.